Well, you guys have questions about dispersed camping.
And being the experts that we are, we've done it 3 times now, we've got answers. Well, hey everybody, I'm Bill.
And I'm Elizabeth. Live simple.
Live free and dispersed camping. We love it.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to it for a long time, and we've had some opportunities on this trip to do some. The first one was that place we found in the woods near Bryce Canyon. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple days later, we were out in the middle of the desert in Utah, and that was fabulous. And then most recently, up on the bluff above Montrose, Colorado.
Explain what dispersed camping is.
Dispersed camping is just what it sounds like. You disperse into the woods or into the desert or whatever, and you just find a place to park, and you just park for the night.
Yep.
And in fact, that was one of the questions that several people asked. Well, a lot of people have said, "How do you find these places?" But one person even asked, "How do you book these things?" And that's the whole point. There is nothing to book. There's no authority that oversees it. Though if you are on BLM land, on Bureau of Land Management, you might have to check in with them. Not necessarily.
Yeah, it depends.
But for the most part, you just find a place, and if there's nobody there, you stay. It's that easy. It's that simple, and it's that free.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit later about how to find them. But probably the biggest question that we got, and it started when we camped, and nobody said it when we camped near Bryce Canyon, but a lot of people said it when we camped in the middle of the desert in Utah, and then a lot more people said it when we were at Montrose, and that is, what about security? Aren't you afraid for your safety being so isolated? And several people asked if we carry weapons to protect ourselves out there being so isolated like that.
One of the things that's really important to understand is that state laws vary tremendously. And so the whole idea of carrying can be very illegal in some of the states you drive through.
Yeah, you have to research the state law of every state that you drive through if you're going to have a weapon in your vehicle.
Yeah. You have to be very, very careful about that. There's some states where you can absolutely be arrested.
Yeah. So even if I had one, and even if I wanted to carry it, I wouldn't carry it unless I investigated the state laws of each state.
Yeah.
And that's just not too much. But here's the thing.
And Chris, we've hit so many states on this trip.
Yeah. My question is, why is that necessary to carry? Why? Of course, you always want to be wise.
Oh, sure.
But we are not concerned with our security being isolated like that. Yes, there are a lot of crazy people out there. Yes, there are a lot of weird and dangerous people out there. But you know where those people are? Let me put it this way. You know where they're not? They're not out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah,
they're not out in the middle of the woods. They're in town. And so I haven't ever had any kind of fear for my security, for our security at all when we're camping isolated like that.
Well, the thing of it is that both of us have a history of backpacking,
Right.
of wilderness camping, of all varying permutations of that, and you have to be careful, but it's just not, I mean, usually things are really kind of quite isolated, or,
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, and that actually goes to several of the other questions that we're going to answer as well. But yeah, we've been doing this kind of thing all our lives, wilderness backpacking and all kinds of stuff.
And actually, we're unless somebody is going to break a great big windshield or something like that, and I guess if somebody's that determined, there's not much you can do to really stop them. But this is a very secure vehicle. It locks up really nicely. Everything just, locks down, and I would be a little more apprehensive, honestly. Parked in a real crowded community area than I would be on the edge of a canyon where there's nobody for miles. In Utah. It's just the way we feel about it.
We were recently parked in a Walmart for the night, I love Walmart, but I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute.
Walmart State Park.
Yep. It was a rural area, small town, small Walmart. We called ahead, we got permission, they told us where to park, which side of the parking lot, and that sort of thing. We pulled in about 7 o'clock in the evening.
We always check with Walmart. Just always check with them.
All of a sudden, about 8 o'clock in the evening, 5 cars pulled in, and they parked all around us. 20, I didn't count them, but probably 20 guys, all teenagers, got out. And they were just all sitting on the hoods of the cars and smoking and laughing and all kinds of stuff. I looked out the window and I saw that, and I thought, oh boy, it looks like we got into the middle of the local teenage hangout. And I was nervous. And the doors were locked, and if anything really happened, I could just crawl through our access door into the front and drive away. But they only stayed about 15 minutes, and then they all packed up and left. And then
They were probably perfectly nice kids.
yeah, and it was quiet the rest of the night. Here's my point. We were in a civilized, populated area in a Walmart parking lot, and I was more fearful for our security there than I ever have been out in the wilderness.
Yeah, that's just, we're just both used to being out in the wilderness a lot.
Yeah.
And it seems very comfortable. Of course, you want to be sensible, but it just seems very peaceful to me.
Next question. When you're isolated like that, what about medical emergencies?
Well, that's a very legitimate question.
Yeah. Especially because she has a history of stroke.
Yeah.
She's had several.
And so I can tell you honestly that, well, for one thing, before we left on this trip, I checked with the doctor, found out how much better my lungs were doing. Didn't seem to be issues with my heart at this point. But for 11 years now, I've had different TIAs, transient ischemic attacks, something.
Mini strokes.
Yeah, mini strokes. I've had a bunch of them. But I had to make a decision way back when the first big thing happened that I cannot live in fear.
Right.
I've taken as good a care of myself and of things as I can. Very seldom are we totally away from anybody that might be able to help. And I want to still live life. I'm not going to stay carefully near someplace just in case something happens.
Yeah. Now, many of the places where we boondock or disperse camp actually have cell signal. So we can call 911 if we need to.
Yeah.
The one that we were in on the bluff on Montrose had 4 bars of 5G. It was amazing.
It's some of the best 5G that we've had the whole trip.
On the other hand, we were in a national forest campground near Durango.
Mm-hmm. No
cell service at all. Now, there were people around, but there was no way to call for emergency services without actually driving into town. Out there in the middle of the desert in Utah, it was a stretch of 120 miles. There was a sign on the road, 120 miles, no service. We drove about halfway through that, and that's where we stopped for the night. So we were, I don't know exactly, if we were right in the middle, but we were 75 miles from any kind of service. So, of course, no cell phone out there. If we had run into some kind of an emergency, we could have gone out to the road, waited on the road. It was a sparsely used road, but there was probably a car came by every 15 or 20 minutes anyway.
Yeah, there would be cars going by.
So there's always some way to get help, and like she said, don't want to live in fear, but when something like that comes up, you just figure a way to deal with it.
Yeah, you figure things out. People get rescued, they get lost in the woods, people get rescued from plane crashes. There's just lots of different scenarios. We would just pray really hard, and I don't feel like I've had any kind of recent history of anything very, very serious. And it was so healthy and good for me out there. I mean, just looking at the Milky Way in the middle of the night was incredible.
And this thing right here, cell phone, some of you younger people have had these all your lives.
A lot of people have had them all their lives now, yeah.
But most of us oldsters spent 30 or 40 years of our life before these came in.
If not more.
Yeah.
Yeah, before you even, I took my nephew from Virginia up to Maine. I grabbed an old atlas, I had a car, and I had my nephew. We packed some clothes and I hit the road. It was an adventure. You know, we didn't have GPS. We couldn't get a hold of people in an emergency. You just have to, you know, figure out things.
In my younger years, I did a lot of backpacking on the Appalachian Trail with some friends of mine. I'm talking teenagers when we weren't old enough to drive yet. We had to get somebody to drop us off at the beginning and pick us up at the end. There was one trip that we did. There were 4 of us. We were all 15 years old. And we did 6 days on the Appalachian Trail. No adults along. How times have changed. But we were all responsible. Our parents knew that. And they let us go. And if we had been out there in the middle of nowhere and somebody fell and broke a leg, which is very possible because the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania and New Jersey is very rocky, you just figure a way to deal with it. You learn how to make a splint. You know, wait till somebody else comes along and helps you out. But my point is, back before about 1995 or so, we didn't have cell phones, and you just dealt with it.
Yeah.
And so it's easy for us to lock back into that mode where we have a problem, we have to figure out a way to handle it.
Yeah.
So, you know, in today's modern conveniences, that sounds strange, but that's the way life has been for thousands of years until about 30 years ago, 25 years ago.
Not that we don't appreciate GPS and being able to get a hold of people, but you really did manage before. People knew how to read maps. You memorized phone numbers.
Yep.
Can you imagine?
Yep.
You knew things.
So another question was, what about animals? A lot of people asked, what about bears, and especially, what about rattlesnakes? Well, there isn't a place in the United States that you can go that doesn't have snakes. Every state has snakes, I think, except Hawaii. I think that's why I thought of that.
Oh, really? Hawaii doesn't have
But I'm
snakes?
not sure about that. If you live in Hawaii, prove me wrong. But everywhere in the lower 48 has snakes, and so you just be aware of them. Don't step on them. You know?
Just pay attention always where you're walking.
And most snakes that you see are not going to hurt you anyway, because most of them are not poisonous.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I would never go near hearing the beginning of a rattlesnake rattle, or just, you know, in the desert, you don't just go traipsing out, not being able to pay close attention to where you're walking.
Yeah.
There's more than snakes out there, and you just have to be aware and be smart and pay attention.
And you know, if you see a rattlesnake and he starts rattling at you, that is not a warning, I'm going to come and bite you. That's not an attack sound. That is a, hey, I'm here, don't step on me sound.
Yeah, we were just actually read some research about that. They just don't want to be.
They don't want to be near you, and they're only going to bite you if you step on them or threaten them. Same way with bears. Now, grizzlies are a little bit more.
They're just more aggressive and just a little more on the mean
meaner
side. Yeah.
But black bears and brown bears, if you stand up and wave, "Hey bear, run away!" they'll run away as fast as they can, unless there's a cub involved.
Yeah. If there's a mom and cub, you just stay away. Just stay away. But yeah, I mean, we've both been around bears our whole life. I grew up around grizzlies.
I used to, in the Poconos in Pennsylvania, I used to have to go outside at night to chase the bears out of our garbage cans.
First time he did that scared me to death, because when we were up in the mountains in Colorado, if there was a bear, it was a grizzly.
Right.
So I didn't know about black bears, and black bears aren't as dangerous unless there's a mama and a baby. And so Bill goes out and chases bears off, and I just knew he was going to get eaten alive, because only bears I knew, man, you don't go anywhere near them.
And actually, we got the same question or the same reaction to a lot of y'all about alligators in Florida.
About being around alligators,
and,
yeah.
you know, swimming in a swimming hole when you see alligators across the way. I wasn't swimming in that water because it was too cold.
Yeah, he's not scared of the alligators. He doesn't like the cold.
Alligators, snakes, bears, you know, all of those kinds of things.
Coyotes, we've been around coyotes.
You don't have to fear them, you just have to respect them.
Absolutely.
Give them their due, stay away from them, don't approach them, especially don't threaten them or don't threaten their kids, their children.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, they're just not a problem. They're more afraid of you than you are of them. And if you stand up and shout and wave your hands, they're going to run away.
Yeah. Now don't do that with polar bears. Just avoid polar bears.
Yeah. Now the only exception to that, if you got some bear that's been eating out of the garbage in campgrounds and is getting used to being around people and eating, human food, then they could be more dangerous and aggressive.
That actually brings up a really important point. If we're going to be out somewhere, like when we used to backpack, and Bill and I did it both separately and then we did it together. If you're going to be camping, wilderness kind of camping, don't leave food around. Right. If you've got food, it has to be up very, very high or away from your camp. You don't do stuff that's going to attract a bear or a predator. That's just common sense. Just, there's certain rules. In fact, a lot of parks and recreation, wilderness areas have instructions before you go in about how to handle bears and what to do about that. You just, don't just leave a bunch of food sitting out on the picnic table and then be upset because you're going to get a bear in the camp or raccoons for sure.
No, that's not an issue here because we have hard sides.
Oh yeah, no, this thing's actually quite sturdy.
But we don't want to leave food sitting out on the picnic table out there. We want to bring it all in here where they can't get to it.
Yeah.
So.
And any food that would be at all interesting to them is going to go in the fridge or the freezer, and that seals it away even more.
Right.
So yeah, you got to you got to respect it. You got to be respectful of how powerful they can be.
So then the next question, a lot of people wanted to know, how do we find these spots, these out-of-the-way isolated spots? There are apps that you can get. I have about a dozen of them on my phone.
He's been training me on them.
There are basically only two that I use, but everybody that I talk to has their own favorite app that they use. There's two that I use. One is called Park Advisor, and this one isn't so much for dispersed camping and boondocking, but Park Advisor lists every Walmart and every Cracker Barrel in the country, also Cabela's and places like that. And if you find it on the map, you click on it, and then you can read reviews that people have left. That they stated that they called ahead and the Walmart said, sure, park here. We stayed there and it was a quiet night, good place. Or we called ahead and they said, no parking there. A lot of people really disparage Walmart, but I like it. Yes, there are some Walmarts that no longer allow it, and for the most part, they seem to be the ones near major cities.
Right.
If you get out into the smaller towns, almost every small town of 15,000 or more has a Walmart in it, and most of those allow it.
If I call ahead or if I go in and talk to them, they're very nice. We find out where they'd like us to park, any restrictions they might have.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the Walmart near Branson is going to let people park there because, good grief, their entire parking lot would be full of
Right.
people in RVs. I mean, if you're near a really major attraction, it's harder for Walmart to let that happen. I don't blame them.
Right. But so Park Advisor is the name of the app that I use. We use it a lot when we're traveling, when we're just looking for one night to spend, and and then be off the next day. And I like Walmart State Park, I call it.
Yep.
Also, that lists all the Cabela's in the country, and not Cabela's.
Well, Cracker Barrels.
Cracker Barrels. Lists Cracker Barrels. That's a good place to stay. You can get breakfast in the morning. It also lists an awful lot of our RV parks and a lot of the National Forest campgrounds and things like that. It does list some, what's it called? Unorganized campgrounds. That's not what they call it, but places where you can just stop and spend the night that's not an organized place to stay. But the one that I really like for dispersed camping is called iOverlander.
Yeah.
And that one does show a lot of the Walmarts and RV parks, paid RV parks and stuff like that. But it shows all of the dispersed camping places, BLM land, National Forest, where you can park for free. And once again, once you find one, you click on it on the app, and then you can read all of the reviews. People say, this is a beautiful place. It was nice and quiet next to a stream. Or this is a party place for the locals. Don't come here, kind of thing. And I have found iOverlander to be absolutely indispensable. And it's not just for the U.S. The iOverlander covers all over the world. Now, how do these apps work? They're basically driven by the users. If I find a new place that's not on there, I can actually list it there. I give the GPS coordinates and tell what it is and what my experience is. If it's one that's already there and I stay there, then I can leave a review and tell everybody whether it was a good experience or not. So they're all driven by the users who have input into
Yeah.
the
And
places.
you can get a lot of people that let you know, what they really think of it, which is good to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so thrilled that we found that place in Montrose. Oh my goodness, what an incredible, beautiful,
Yeah, the
big
bluff
that
overlooking
was.
Montrose, and the bluff had like a 300-degree view all the way around. It was beautiful. I found that on iOverlander. So, Park Advisor, Campendium,
Yes, Campendium is good.
Public Lands, Overnight RV, Trucker Path. That's kind of cool because it's specifically for truckers, and it tells how many spots are available and open in any given rest stop along the highway.
Oh, that could be really useful.
Hip Camp, Free Roam, RV Life, RV Parky. So there's a lot of them, but the two that I recommend is Park Advisor and iOverlander. So.
And the more you kind of get into them, the more people recommend other things,
Right.
and you start kind of getting into the system.
Now there were two other questions that are not really related specifically to dispersed camping, just related to this our camper itself. The first is when I cooked breakfast on the pull-out ramp on the back out here, and it started to rain a little bit. Well, it only spit on me for a couple minutes and it stopped, so it wasn't a problem. But a lot of people suggested that I put an awning out there. In fact, a lot of people even explained to me how I can do that, as if I didn't know. But
Well, they're trying. Everybody's trying to help.
But we actually have it's right up there. I'll show it to you. It's a canopy, a freestanding canopy on 4 legs, and we can set up outside. We can set it up over a picnic table or over the ramp or in the back. I just hadn't set it up, and I didn't know it was going to start raining. So we already have that. I can just set it up.
And we very carefully had a place to transport it.
But yes, in the future, we will probably get an awning on the side, and there's a slight possibility we'll put another awning out the back if I end up using. I don't know how much I'm going to use that ramp as a table. I don't know.
It sure worked well.
It did. And if I use it a lot, then I'll probably put another small awning out the back as well. So, and then I showed in one of those videos, I showed washing the dishes in the sink, and I was talking about how I enjoy that it's a nice deep sink, but I save some water by using a smaller pan inside. Quite a few people told me that you can wash dishes with vinegar and water. In a spray bottle. In fact, a lot of people reference Brian from Adventure Van Man because he does that. Yes, I'm aware of that. Yes, we actually got some.
We got a spray bottle, we got the vinegar, we got everything ready to go.
And it worked. But I've got a sink here that works. And I did the vinegar spray thing a couple of times, and then I used the sink, and then I threw the vinegar out.
He did. It wasn't our thing.
If I didn't have any water, it works fine. But hey guys, I've got water. I've got hot water. Why would I want a spray bottle? So anyway, I tried it. I didn't like it.
Yeah, he did try. We've just been able to have a really good sink there. And not only is it great just for washing up, but it's great for us washing up, toothbrushing and all sorts of stuff. So it's been very, very handy. And the counter area beside it's been a real workable system. Yep. We have really, it's been great.
One guy told me that he put in a sink and put in a foot pump for his sink. I was considering that. But if I had just a sink, I would have done that. But we have a shower, and I can't see standing in the shower pumping the foot pump.
Yeah.
And that would be very appropriate for a smaller van where you don't have the room for a tank and a pump and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But we've got 30 gallons of fresh water, 30 gallons of wastewater, and a big electrical system that can drive an electric pump. So I just go in and put in an electric pump, and I love it. I love the sink. I love the way it works.
And we've done very quick showers, but man, have they been nice showers in that shower.
I can do a fast shower and use about 3 gallons.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah, it's we don't need a black tank, so we wouldn't have room for it anyway.
Because we have a composting toilet.
We have a composting toilet, but it's been wonderful to have the 30 gallons of fresh water and 30 gallons of gray. Yeah. And we're using, just to make sure people know, we've been using Castile soap. Everything we've been doing has been super biodegradable, which just makes me feel better.
Right.
And and it's worked really well. One time I was in the shower and I hadn't grabbed my stuff, and Bill just handed me the Castile soap that we used to wash the dishes. It worked really, really well. It's pretty cool stuff.
So that's your basic questions that you've been asking about dispersed camping and about the camper. So, we've been now in this camper for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah, it's been a nice long time now.
And we've adapted to it. We've moved in. We absolutely love it. There are a few things that I still need to tweak, and this was a pretty awesome shakedown trip for us to find those things. But there's nothing big, just a couple of little tweaks here and there.
Yeah, that we would like to do a little differently. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to him getting a chance to get the flooring down. I think that's going to be really nice.
Right, because this isn't finished yet. That's why there's no awning yet. This isn't quite finished yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm the one that did that because all of a sudden I found out I had that 50th class reunion. Yeah. So we had to move the entire trip a month earlier.
Right.
And so there's a lot of things.
Otherwise I would have finished it.
He would have been able to get finished. Yeah. But boy, it meant a lot to me to be at that reunion. So it worked out. It worked out well. He'll be able to get this all finished up. Yeah.
So can you think of anything else?
No, I don't think so. We've just felt very much at home here. Man, am I grateful for the space here. Yeah.
And thank you very much for your interaction with us. Thank you for all your comments and for these questions.
And suggestions.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate every one of you.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Okay.
Righty.
So thanks for watching.
Yep, live simple.
Live free. You be blessed.
All right, we'll still be taking you guys along.
Yeah, we got more videos to come.
Yeah, we got more coming.
All right.
So,
Bye-bye.